The horrific virginity tests of medieval queens. Imagine a world where your worth, your future, and even your very life could hinge on a single, invasive, and often brutal examination. A world where powerful women, queens, and princesses were subjected to humiliating rituals designed to prove their purity. This isn't a dystopian fantasy. This was the chilling reality for women in medieval Europe, a reality far more disturbing than any fiction. For centuries, the virginity of royal brides was not just a matter of personal honor, but a political imperative, a tool of power, and a dark secret whispered behind castle walls. What truly happened in those hidden chambers? And how did these horrific tests shape the lives of the most influential women of their time? Stay with us, because the truth is about to unravel. It's far more shocking than you can possibly imagine. In the medieval era, virginity, particularly for women, was not merely a moral virtue, but a tangible asset, especially within the upper echelons of society. For royal families, a bride's virginity was paramount, guaranteed the legitimacy of heirs, ensuring the continuation of dynastic lines and preventing claims of bastardy that could plunge kingdoms into chaos. The concept of purity was deeply intertwined with religious doctrine, social hierarchy, and political stability. A non-virgin bride could bring shame upon her family, invalidate a marriage, and even spark wars. This intense societal pressure led to extreme measures to ascertain a woman's untouched status before marriage, particularly when alliances between powerful families or nations were at stake. The perceived value of virginity was not uniform across all social strata. But for queens and noble women, it was an almost sacred requirement. Their bodies were not their own. They were vessels for political ambition and dynastic succession. The stakes were incredibly high, and the methods employed to verify this purity ranged from the pseudoscientific to the outright barbaric. These practices were often shrouded in secrecy, performed by midwives, female relatives, or even male physicians, leaving little written record beyond vague allusions in chronicles or medical texts. This lack of explicit documentation only adds to the unsettling nature of these historical events, forcing us to piece together a grim picture from fragmented evidence and cultural norms. Medieval virginity tests were a crude mix of folklore, religious belief, and rudimentary medical understanding. The most common, and perhaps the most physically invasive, involved the examination of the hymen. It was widely, though incorrectly, believed that an intact hymen was irrefutable proof of virginity. Midwives and other female attendants would perform manual examinations, looking for signs of rupture. However, the anatomical variations of the hymen, and the fact that it can be broken through non-sexual activities, meant these examinations were inherently unreliable and often led to false accusations. Beyond physical inspection, more bizarre and superstitious methods were also employed. One infamous test involved the use of a jetstone, a type of lignite. It was believed that if a woman was a virgin, the fumes from a heated jetstone would not cause her to urinate. Another method, described in some medieval texts, involved having the woman drink a concoction of herbs and then observing her reaction. If she did not experience certain physical symptoms, she was deemed a virgin. These tests were not only unscientific, but also deeply humiliating, reducing a woman's worth to a series of arbitrary and often nonsensical trials. The psychological impact of these virginity tests on medieval women, especially young queens and princesses, cannot be overstated. Imagine the fear and anxiety of a young woman, often a teenager, being subjected to such an intimate and invasive examination by strangers. The experience would have been deeply traumatic, a violation of her body and her dignity. The pressure to be found pure would have been immense, knowing that her future and the fate of her family and kingdom hung in the balance. This was a form of institutionalized abuse, a way of controlling and subjugating women, even those at the highest levels of society. The powerlessness of these women is a recurring theme. They were pawns in a political game, their bodies treated as commodities to be inspected and verified. The emotional scars of these experiences would have been profound, shaping their relationships, their self-perception, their ability to wield power in a male-dominated world. While historical records rarely document the emotional turmoil of these women, we can infer from the cultural context and the nature of the tests themselves that the psychological toll was immense. This was a hidden form of violence, a silent suffering that has been largely overlooked by history. While explicit accounts of virginity tests for specific queens are rare, historical chronicles and diplomatic correspondence offer tantalizing glimpses into this dark practice. The case of Anne of Cleves, the fourth wife of King Henry VIII of England, is a well-known example of how a queen's perceived lack of virginity could have devastating consequences. Although the marriage was annulled on the grounds of non-consummation, rumors and speculation about Anne's premarital life were rampant. The pressure on royal brides to be above reproach was immense, and any hint of scandal could be used as a political weapon. Another example can be found in the story of Joan of Navarre, the second wife of King Henry IV of England. Accused of witchcraft and treason, her enemies also cast aspersions on her moral character, using the specter of sexual impurity to undermine her position and authority. These cases highlight how the obsession with virginity was not just about ensuring legitimate heirs, but also about controlling and discrediting powerful women. The virginity test, whether explicitly performed or implicitly threatened, was a constant reminder of their vulnerability and the precariousness of their position. The legacy of medieval virginity tests is a complex and disturbing one. These practices not only inflicted immense personal suffering on countless women, but also had a profound impact on the course of history. The outcomes of these tests could determine the fate of nations, cementing alliances, or sparking conflicts. The obsession with purity reinforced patriarchal power structures, reducing women to their reproductive capacity and denying them agency over their own bodies. This historical context is crucial for understanding the long and troubled history of women's rights and the ongoing struggle for bodily autonomy. The scientific and medical fallacies that underpin these tests also have a long and dark history. The myth of the intact hymen as a definitive sign of virginity has persisted for centuries, causing immense harm and perpetuating harmful stereotypes about female sexuality. It is only in recent times that we have begun to challenge these outdated and unscientific beliefs. By examining the history of medieval virginity tests, we can better understand the roots of these harmful myths and work towards a more enlightened and equitable future. The story of medieval virginity tests is a stark reminder of the brutality and injustice that women have faced throughout history. It is a story of power, politics, and the systematic control of female bodies. While we may have moved beyond the crude and superstitious methods of the past, the underlying issues of purity, honor, and the objectification of women continue to resonate in our own time. By shedding light on this dark chapter of our past, we can honor the memory of the women who suffered in silence, and reaffirm our commitment to a future where every individual has the right to control their own body and their own destiny. If you found this exploration of medieval history as fascinating as we did, be sure to subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the hidden corners of the past. We uncover the stories that are often left out of the history books, bringing you the unvarnished truth about the lives of the men and women who shaped our world. From the secret lives of kings and queens to the forgotten stories of ordinary people, we are dedicated to bringing you the most compelling and thought-provoking historical content. Click that subscribe button and join our community of history lovers. You won't want to miss what we have in store for you next. The virginity tests of medieval queens were not merely personal ordeals. They were deeply embedded in the legal and social fabric of the time. The concept of jus primae noctis, or the right of the first night, though often debated by historians as more myth than widespread practice, highlights the pervasive control over female bodies and sexuality. While direct evidence of this specific right being exercised by lords over their vassals' brides is scarce, the underlying principle that a woman's body, particularly her virginity, is a commodity to be controlled and verified was undeniably present. Marriage contracts, especially those involving royalty, often contained clauses that implicitly or explicitly demanded proof of virginity, linking a woman's physical state to the validity of the union and the legitimacy of any future offspring. Furthermore, the social stigma associated with a perceived loss of virginity before marriage was immense. For a royal woman, this could mean not only the annulment of her marriage, but also public disgrace, banishment, or even accusations of witchcraft. As seen in the case of Joan of Navarre, the societal pressure was so profound that women, as documented in some medieval texts, resorted to various desperate measures to feign virginity. These ranged from consuming specific herbs believed to tighten the vaginal muscles to using animal blood or other substances to simulate hymeneal bleeding. Such practices, while offering a fleeting sense of control, underscore the extreme lengths to which women were driven to conform to an impossible ideal, highlighting the brutal reality of their limited agency. The echoes of medieval virginity tests resonate even today, manifesting in various forms of control over female sexuality and reproductive rights. The persistent myth of the hymen as an infallible indicator of virginity, despite overwhelming scientific evidence to the contrary, continues to fuel harmful practices in some parts of the world. The historical context of these tests serves as a crucial reminder of how deeply ingrained patriarchal systems can become, and how they can adapt and persist across centuries, influencing legal frameworks, social norms, and individual lives. Understanding this dark chapter is not just an academic exercise. It is a vital step in recognizing the historical roots of gender inequality and the ongoing struggle for bodily autonomy. By dissecting the mechanisms through which women's bodies were policed and controlled in the past, we gain valuable insights into contemporary debates surrounding reproductive health, sexual freedom, and gender-based violence. The stories of these medieval queens, subjected to unimaginable scrutiny, are not just relics of a bygone era. They are powerful testaments to the resilience of women and a call to action for a future where no one is judged or controlled based on their perceived purity. This historical journey through the horrific virginity tests of medieval queens reveals a past that is both disturbing and illuminating. It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about power, gender, and the enduring human capacity for both cruelty and resilience. As we reflect on these stories, let us remember that history is not just a collection of facts, but a living narrative that continues to shape our present and inform our future. The fight for bodily autonomy and gender equality is a long one, and understanding its historical trajectory is essential for navigating the challenges that lie ahead.